Hello everyone, welcome back to Levi Paints. We currently got one of these Cosmos Serpents from one of my favorite places I call the Nerd Store. It's down in a town called Dubuque, I believe. It's something comic something rather. But it's one of my favorite places to go, and they have all kinds of fun, like cool miniatures and stuff, and they got them for pretty good price. This one was $9, but it's a Magic the Gathering like serpent thing, and it honestly looks like the basilisk from Harry Potter. So not like the basilisk from Dungeons and Dragons or anything like that, but the basilisk from Harry Potter. And I find it to be pretty cool. So we're gonna open it up and we're gonna take a look. So there you go. It's got this really cool texture on its lower body, and I just think it's an awesome miniature. I've painted one of these before, and then I ended up actually selling it back to the Nerd Store that I go to. And I regretted it almost immediately because I loved the paint job just so much. It was so amazing looking. I was so proud of it. So I had to get myself another one and repaint this one. It's not going to look the exact same as my old one that I painted way back when, but I still feel like it's going to turn out pretty cool. So the colors we're using are black craft paint, a glittery green craft paint, a purple craft paint, a brown craft paint, a light brown caramel craft paint, a toasted marshmallow craft paint, a gray cat craft paint, and a white craft paint. And these are all just paints that you can buy at like Walmart or any kind of craft store. They're just cheap paints. They've lasted me forever. As I've said in older videos, they're very vibrant. They stick well to the miniatures. I would like to eventually get myself some actual miniature paints. But for now, I got what I got, and we'll have to go from there. So I guess let's get started with this, shall we? Alright, so we got our first two colors in the thing. We're going to move this aside. This will be glued to it later. Alright, so we're going to start with a gray base to start this off with. I like to do gray bases, not a black or a white base, just because I feel like that gray gives you a good median of color. Because like if you want things to be like darker and more edgy, you give it a black base paint. That way, so like if you miss any spots or whatever, those spots are like dark and shadowy looking to a certain extent and whatever. And if you paint it with white, it'll make the colors even more vibrant and pop even more. So like if you're painting like something evil, you usually want to paint it with a black base paint first. If you're painting something good, you usually want to kind of paint it with a white base paint first. Because darkness, evil, light, good, sort of thing. So I like to do gray because it's a good medium color. The creature could be good or it could be bad. It's not super dark, but it's also not super vibrant. But him, he's going to end up being vibrant. I know he is. He's going to definitely be dark too. But the brighter colors that I've chose those specific ones because the fact that they pop. I could paint in black and they would still just shine. So I'll see you guys back when he's fully painted gray. Alright, so now that he's painted gray, I'm going to get off most of this paint. Honestly, as I've talked about before in my old videos, if you've seen them, I honestly don't like completely wiping off the brush, just because like when you're going from one tone to another, it kind of helps it blend a little better. So the fact that I'm going to now paint him like with a base brown for a lot of him, it'll kind of help that gray and the brown kind of blend together a little bit. Since you use so little paint when you paint these things, they dry almost instantly as you're painting them. So there's a little bit on there that will somewhat mix in with the brown, but not terribly, to where it should end up making a nice kind of not auburn. I don't know why I was going to say auburn. But a nice kind of like a nice good color, to where if there's any gray spots in there, it kind of makes it look like it's meant to be in there. If that makes sense. Alright, so we're going to paint the top parts of this guy brown. And I like brown just because, like, I don't know, I feel like brown's a good, solid base for a snake. Because, again, not too dark, not too whatever. And when you put the vibrant colors on there, that brown will really make them kind of stand out. Plus, when I think of snakes, I think of, like, earthy. And brown is just a very earthy color. So, this is kind of what I'm talking about right here. If you look right here, you can kind of see like how it's like dark, but the brown, when you get into here, it kind of fades in with that gray a little bit. Makes it look more natural, would be the best way to say, more realistic, I feel. Because there are some parts of a snake and some parts of like actual creatures and whatever else that do have very bright and very vibrant colors to them. But I feel like when you look at, like, if you looked at a painting of a person and their face is like a bright red with like bright orange and bright yellow speckles or whatever, and whatever else to try to get that color, like, you know that's a painting. But the difference between a painting and a photograph is, like, painting, photograph. Like, there's still vibrant on there, and obviously, but like, it's more dull. Real life isn't as vibrant. And I want him to be somewhat vibrant just so he stands out on the table. But I also like the whole realistic look. I kind of want to be able to, like, the giant spiders that I've painted, I've set those down in front of people or handed them one, and they would freak out and drop them almost instantly because they thought they were real spiders. Like, I painted the wolf spiders and gave them, like, a gray base, like I did with this one, like I do all of them. But then I ended up painting it brown, like a lighter brown, and then gave it dark brown stripes. So that way, and then like white circular spots on its legs to make it look like an actual wolf spider. And I ended up giving it to someone once or whatever. I was like, here, hold this for a second. And then when they ended up opening their hands and saw it, they freaked out because they thought it was real for a moment until they realized it was on a base. And they realized it was actually painted. I like that realism look. I feel like when you're playing Dungeons and Dragons, having that feel of realism when you look at something gives it a little more depth while you're like fighting the creature or doing whatever against the creature. To be fair, I also run more realistic campaigns, like the one I'm planning on running, where like if you end up hitting someone in the head hard enough and it's like you score your critical and you hit him in the head and you deal however much percent of damage, there's a good chance you cut their head off. Whether they drop to 0 hit points or not, they're dead. Because you didn't injure just them, you cut off their head. Or if you hit their arms, you could cut off their arms. Stuff like that. And immobilize your enemies instead of just having to just straight fight and kill. You can actually immobilize and capture if you want to, or what have you. Okay. So, there's the base brown. See, I already feel like it's already more realistic looking. Just like that. Like looking at that, I would feel like that is a baby snake. And again, it's just because it's just a little more dull. It's not as popping. Okay, so now what I'm going to do is I'm not going to use this brush anymore. Which means I'm going to have to clean it off. Actually clean it off. That'll get it mostly cleaned for the most part. Once I'm actually done, that's when I actually go and clean off my brushes. So that way I'm not having to get up and cut the video just to do so. And yeah, I could have the whole cup of water and paper towel, but my setup here right now, not very big. So take up a lot of space, block a lot of the view. Don't see any purpose in it right now. Alright. Alright, so we're going to go in with our next color now, which is going to be the underbelly, which we're going to use this lighter brown. Alright, so we're finishing up this lower part of the belly. Get it all the way up inside all the little holes and crevices. Alright, and now get the lower part of the lower tail. Alright, so now we just got the inner sections to color. This one in here. Okay, and then there's also that one there. There it is. Rub that off so that way we get the actual color it's supposed to be. Alright, so now we got just this basic brown snake. Nothing fantastic about it, but now we're going to add the actual snake's patterns. Purple, the glittery green, and black. There we go. Alright, so now we're going to use one of our smaller brushes. And we're just going to kind of do circles. So we're going to start with the purple first. Alright. We're going to keep adding these circles and then we'll be back. Okay, so we got done with the circles. It's kind of how they look right now. They may not be like completely even, but hey, it's whatever. Alright, so now we're going to go in with that green. And we're going to create a smaller circle inside the purple. So this green, the shimmery colors, they tend not to sit as well as the actual just like regular colors. They're more liquidy or liquid based, and it's because you're meant to just kind of glide them over to create kind of a glittered effect on whatever color you're using. But it should still work for the purposes that I'm trying to get it to work for. Gonna have to be a little more tedious with the shimmer colors. Alright, so I'll meet you back here once I'm done coloring the spots. Alright, so we're back. We got the spots all colored on there. Now we're gonna have to wait for it to dry, because like I said, this paint's a lot more liquidy, so you have to put more on. So now I'm gonna have to sit and let it dry before I can come back. But when I come back, we're gonna be adding little black spots inside the green. That way it gives kind of like that nice snake stripe or spotted pattern. Well, I guess before you do that, I guess instead of waiting for it to dry now, we can color other stuff like the fins and the jaw and the little spikes on top of its head. So we'll do that now instead. So we're gonna need a little brush for this one. Alright, which brush is my littlest? Here we go. Alright, so now we're gonna go into this color here. We're gonna color these little horns on his head. Alright, so I colored the horns. Now I'm going to color these spines. For the tail. Okay. So, spines are done, horns are done. Now I'm gonna go back real quick with a little bit of this brown because I ended up getting some on his face. But I don't want to mess with the horns, so I'm gonna still use my tiny brush to do this. I'm gonna just get right there and right there. There we go. That's better. Get a little bit of the purple on there. Get that. Alright. And the good news is, it looks like from how long it took to paint the spines, the green is also dry. So now we can go in with the black. I want that fine tip. And go in and color these dots. I'll see you when we're done with that. Alright, so we're done with the spots. That's how it's kind of looking so far. Now we're actually going to go back in with the purple. And we're going to color the fins purple. Try to get this cleaned off as much as I can. Get as much residue off of there. Alright. So now let's go in and do these fins, shall we? We'll see you back when they're done. Alright, so now we're all done with the back fin. Done with the spots, we're done with all that stuff. Next we're going to do this lower jaw. And then we're going to do the actual patterns over the neck. Alright, so we're going to switch back to this one. We're actually going to mix the colors to get a medium between this one, which means we need a lot of it on that brush, and a little bit of this one. Alright, and now we're going to do the actual jaw of this snake. This new color that we have made. Okay. So now what we're going to do is we're going to dry brush. Because that's how we're going to get those swirls. And that is going to be done with this white. I'm kind of nervous because all it takes is one good mistake and I have a whole chunk of section to repaint. So for this, we're going to want a smaller square brush. So the brush and paint. Alright, so we're almost done with this section now. The only one left to get, and I would normally like to get all spots, the only one left to get is right underneath that tail area, which I'm going to hit it a little bit just to make sure it's highlighted. But, oh shoot, I got this side too. So I made sure that one side, that one little bit was at least highlighted. But I didn't want to do too much because otherwise it would make it all white in there, or very white in there. And obviously that'd be a more shadowed place of the snake because it's under the coil. So, alright, so it actually ended up doing fine. The dry brushing worked. There's still the brown undertone of under the white. But this is how he's looking so far. The only thing I feel like I am missing, which I'll have to go get, is a red or pink color for his mouth. For some reason I didn't think about that. So I will go get that. Alright, so I didn't find pink, but I found this red. And I mixed it with some of my white, just to give myself... It's kind of more of a hot pink than a regular pink, which I feel like should be fine because it's the mouth. But shall go in and go ahead and color this. Wipe a bunch of the paint off the brush. And now go back in to remove some of the paint from the miniature to make the color more static. Alright, now we're going to go back in with a little bit of this black. To the deepest part of the throat, which is right there. Okay. So, that's the mouth. Now we're going to do the teeth, which we're not going to go with a white. Just like the horns, we're going to go with this kind of cream color. That way it matches the bone spurs coming out of the body, match the bone spurs coming out of the mouth. And by bone spurs, obviously I mean teeth. Alrighty now. Okay. So teeth are done, the spots are on there, the speckles. Alright, I believe the last thing to do now is to glue it onto its base, which is right here. And I'll be back when that's done. Alright, so now we're back. We got the base glued. I like to use the glue gun to make a texture. Probably can't see it right now because, yeah, it's shiny, but it's still sitting on top of black. So once I color the base, it should look better. Alright, so we're going to start coloring the base with the gray. Rounding out the edge here. Alright, so now the base has been colored. And now we're going to go in with the brown. The brown is going to be kind of a dry brush type thing. Not going to get rid of all the paint, but a good amount of paint. I'm just going to kind of go over. Add some color in there. grab the edge. Okay, so there we go. Now we got kind of our base there. And now what we do is we take one of our other flat brushes, or littler flat brushes. Here we go. Here it is. Wetting it up a little bit again. Loosen up the bristles. We're going to use that cream, a little bit of white. And now we're literally just going to highlight. This right here is the smallest and simplest step. Alright. So now, that is our snake all painted. You got the pattern, you got the scales all painted. And actually, this might be a little crazy on my part. I don't know. We'll see how it's going to work out. But I'm going to take that shimmery green. Load up my brush. And I'm actually going to go over the body. Hopefully this doesn't ruin all the progress we just made. Trust the process. Even if it makes you nervous, trust the process. Okay. I was honestly kind of worried about doing that, but I actually kind of like how it looks now. The shimmer didn't really shimmer it very much, but I think that's just because I was really cautious with it. But it doesn't look a little like he's a little dirty. It doesn't even look like the shimmery green. It makes him look dirty. So. Do this again. You got the sides, got the head, you got the mouth, the base, alright. I hope you guys had fun with me, and I'll see you in the next video. Have a good afternoon. And a good night.